Hello and welcome to our show. We have a very special guest again today. This is a young man that you may have seen on Channel 3 before. I would like to welcome our guest today, Richard Palmer. We call him Rich. And he is going to tell us a lot about the Centerville Fire Department. Historical things, developments, all kinds of things. Rich, I understand that you are an education specialist, public education specialist for the department. What else do you do?
Well, as public education specialist, I obviously come out and talk about the fire department. I'm involved in fire safety programs in the schools, in the workplace, and elsewhere about the community. And I also deal with all the media relations for the department. So it's a very diversified position.
Okay, and that's your daytime job. I understand you also have a nighttime job.
Well, that I do. I also still run as a volunteer for the fire department. So in the evening you may see me scurrying up and down the road in my private car going to a station to get on the fire engine or on the ambulance. So I still run as a volunteer.
So your training runs in a lot of different aspects. Mm-hmm. Are you in the paramedics or rescue?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm a certified paramedic and run with ambulance, with Medic 20. We call them medics now because they're all staffed with paramedics, which is up on Whip Road. And on the engine that I run it is staffed at Station 1, which is on Maple Avenue. So I have to go to a few different places to take care of my duties.
All right. Now that's the way the fire department is today. Here you are, a public education specialist, but I want to go back, let's say back to the 20s. I think before the 1920s, most farmers took care of their own problems with fire themselves, helping neighbors. And if a barn burned down, a farmer lost really all his investment, all his animals, his supply. And so fire was always a terrible thing for farmers, and this was a farm community. But they had an engine, I understand, back in the 20s, and this is what you might call the first fire station. Not really a fire station, it was a garage. The building still stands on South Main Street, and it was the Himes Garage and gas station, the only one in Centerville. And since Mr. Himes, Byron Himes, owned the garage, he was kind of the fire chief, but not a paid fire chief.
That's right. Of course, in those days, everyone was volunteer. And it could be that anyone in the community could be called at any time. Come and help put this fire out. You're now a firefighter.
Yeah. So. Well, telephones would have been important then. Mm-hmm. Later on, they built a fire station. Where was the first fire station?
Well, the first official fire station was behind what is now Old Township Hall at 27 North Main, and that had originally been the township garage for service work, public service, etc. And they, in 1948, converted that into the first fully operational firehouse.
So they took the garage behind the Township Hall.
Right.
We all know where the old Township Hall. Now, we had a picture here of some of the old equipment they had. And they only had two pieces. That was for the whole village and for the township also.
That's right.
Now, that's kind of a tricky thing. Two pieces of equipment, and we have a pretty big township.
We sure do, about 36 square miles.
Okay.
So it was a challenge for many people. Now, often in those days, the firefighters would go in their personal vehicles to wherever the fire was, and one person was assigned to run to the firehouse and get the fire engine and make sure it got to the fire. You can see some confusion here and there that sometimes maybe the engine didn't make it, but everybody did.
What is this one I see up here?
Okay, that is the Rio Speedwagon. It was the pumper for the department.
What year is that?
That is a 1928 vehicle.
And this one down here, it looks like a cut-up Roadster.
Mm-hmm. They took the back end off of the Roadster, they put some frames and other apparatus on the back of it and converted it into essentially a ladder truck, is what it was.
Well, they were very resourceful, but it was better than not having anything in those days. All right. In 1946, I understand there was a great change that took place. I think what caused the change was in 1945, I was reading newspaper clippings, there was a terrible fire up by Clio Road and Centerville Station Road,
right.
where the furniture factory burned down, a two-story house burned down, and then this brought it to the people's attention. They had to do something.
Very dramatic.
They didn't have the, so they hired, who was this wonderful gentleman that they hired?
Well, that is Louis Campbell, and Louis was the township's first fully paid fire chief, and as a matter of record, he was really the county's first fully paid fire chief. We have an agreement here that the City Council and the Township Trustees signed in 1946, the 28th day of January, which essentially hired Louis for his services and also gave him the housing in what is now Old Township Hall, or what was Old Township Hall. He rented 3 rooms upstairs in Old Township Hall, and that was his residence. So he was right by the firehouse, and he was paid 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. He was not to leave the township. And according to this agreement, if he left the township, well, then he was to find some subordinate that would take over for him while he was outside of the township jurisdiction, and he was to pay that subordinate out of his pocket.
I understand his wife was involved in this too.
That's right, his wife Franny. And Franny was very helpful in that she would answer the telephone, she would pick up all the emergency calls, and eventually both Louis and Franny became dispatchers for the fire department, and they were the first full-time dispatchers.
So they lived 13 years in the second floor of the Township Hall. That's
Many
a very
years.
confining area. But someone said, well, they didn't have the money to pay him and the full salary, so that was part of his salary was free rent.
One of his benefits or perks, I guess.
Well, let's talk about what Louis did for Centerville and Washington Township's fire department.
Well, Louis was responsible for organizing some of the initial purchases of the new apparatus, the new fire engines, organizing the construction of the new firehouse behind Township Hall, and making sure that they had adequate staffing. So he was very involved with recruiting. He held the first ice cream social in 1947, and members of the community around Centerville know that the ice cream social is the fire department's traditional fundraising event. Well, in 1947, they put a sandwich board out on the street and said, "Ice cream social, y'all come." And the ladies baked cakes and pies, and they had ice cream from the local dairy that was here in town. And that helped raise some of the funds to purchase equipment for the engines, to purchase the helmets and boots and coats for the firefighters. So he was very instrumental in organizing a true fire department operation.
All right, you can say then that the volunteers really, through their efforts with the ice cream social, paid for a lot of their own equipment.
That's right. And the philosophy has been over the years that we've had the ice cream social is that if the community will help us by coming to the social and contributing funds, we will try to put that back into the community. Now, be that in the purchase of fire equipment or in public education programs such as what we do now, where we teach children how to be safe from fire, teach people how to prevent injuries and those types of things.
Now, someone said he seldom ever took a vacation in the 13 years he was up there, but something happened then later that kind of made it difficult for him to continue as a full-time fire chief.
Right.
What happened?
I digress just a little bit. He never left the township during his capacity of chief, all but once. And when he left the township, it was to purchase a new engine. He went to Michigan with Deputy Chief Bob Billett. They picked up the new engine and brought it back. So he left once in his term as a chief. Now, I believe it was 1960 or 61, I believe it was 60, December of 60, Louis suffered a stroke. And it did not enable him to really operate in full capacity as a chief. He was being driven to fire calls by some of the volunteers. He couldn't drive himself, and he found that his fire scene operations weren't as adequate as they had been. So he gracefully resigned his capacity as chief and became the township's first full-time dispatcher, he and Franny.
Okay, and who became the fire chief then?
The trustees appointed Bob Billett, who was the assistant chief or deputy chief, as acting fire chief, and he eventually became chief and kept that position until 1970.
All All right, I'd like to get a little bit into how the fire department came under the Washington Township trustees' responsibility. Now, I was reading that the township had a fire truck and the village had a fire truck.
That's right.
But all insurance policies stated that those two fire trucks could not work together. If there was a big fire in the township, the one in the village couldn't go also. It had to stay there, or the fire insurance was not legal.
And essentially that goes back to having a piece of equipment available should another fire happen, another emergency exist. They needed to have something free and available that they could send out if the
For
emergency
more than one fire.
Right.
All right, so what was it, 1949?
48 or 49?
48, I think it was, that then the fire department came under the jurisdiction and became the responsibility of the township trustees.
That's right.
It probably made it much more efficient then, the easier way to raise bond issues to buy new equipment. We have a couple interesting things here, some pictures you've brought over from the fire department. I like this one best. It shows Louis. And will you describe why the fire truck is in front of that fence?
Well, as you can see in the background, there is the outline of the old Township Hall fire station. And all the equipment used to come out of that station. It headed southbound down an alley, and it would turn on to West Franklin, to either go east or west on Franklin Road. There was a property owner just adjacent to that alley who claimed the alley was his property. It did not belong to the township. There was no easement. It was his property. And he was getting a little fed up with the members of the department running these fire engines out and scurrying around. And so he decided he was going to put a fence up and stop this nonsense. Eventually an agreement, I guess, came together. But as you can see, Louis there with the fire truck kind of scratching his head as to, well, what do we do now? So evidently the fence came down and they were able to continue their
Well, they must
fire
have
response.
worked it out. We would never stand for such a thing today, to have someone stop a fire truck from going up and down. I had a couple questions to ask about. Now, I know the importance of the volunteers. That's a very important part of our fire department.
Absolutely.
When Louis came in, do you remember how many volunteers there were?
Well, they had about 15 volunteers originally.
And just Louis was the only...
Louis was the full-time person. He was the only, yeah.
Now today, how many volunteers do you have?
We have almost 120 volunteers, and that is comprised of both firefighters, firefighter EMTs, firefighter paramedics, and EMTs on their own or paramedics on their own. So it is men and women, all ages, 18 and above, that run several different capacities, but they are all volunteer, quote volunteer. They are paid some for their time.
What were they paid in the old days?
Well, some of the original pay structures were that they would receive $2 per fire, and if that fire would last 24 hours, then they were still getting their $2. Then they upgraded it to $2 per call for the first 2 hours, and then every hour after that was $1. So they could make maybe $3, $4 if a call ran into any length of time.
You didn't do this for money, you did it for love of the firefighting.
Absolutely.
I heard about one fire that sounded terrible for those volunteers. It was, I think, it was after Louis came. There was a big fire at the Phillips Mansion where Alex Bell and Mad River come together, and they said, was at Christmas.
Yeah, it was
So
around the holidays.
you have to visualize that,
right?
and
Cold.
it went on for 3 days. Most of the volunteers missed their own Christmas.
That's right. They fought the fire. Families were bringing food to them on the scene. Neighbors were coming down to help pass hose and get equipment, and it was a very tumultuous time during the holidays.
It's interesting, though, how the community in those days really came through to back their firemen.
I think they still do. However, times have changed somewhat. People are busy and doing their own things, but I think you still see very good community support.
Well, our larger population makes it more difficult to know who all the firemen are.
Absolutely.
I know we had another scene of a fire that was devastating. it really wiped out a whole business, and that was the Centerville Builders and Supply, corner of Clio and
That's Clio
Centerville
and,
Station
right.
Road. That's the second big fire there. And there's a nice picture here, and you can see the firemen, and the equipment they have on there is not as good as it is today.
Well, it's not quite as sophisticated, obviously. There were certain things that they did to try to protect themselves at that time, and firefighting equipment has changed drastically over the years, since even back in Ben Franklin's time. You see fire equipment there in 1960 that was very similar to the equipment worn in 1880, 1890. It did not change very dramatically for many, many, many years. Then the National Fire Protection set some standards to try to protect firefighters a little more. We now wear a little bit better protection when we go to fires.
There have been advances in other things too, hasn't there?
Absolutely.
When I was reading about some of the things that Louis did, the thing he wanted most was a two-way radio, and the volunteers with their ice cream social, that was one of the things they were raising money for. You brought some samples here of the changes in communication between the chief and his firemen. Can
That's
you
right.
show them to us?
Sure can. One item that was purchased in 1955, they bought 5 of these. This is a home monitor. Now, you cannot communicate back to the fire station on this monitor. You can only listen to what's being said. But these were purchased for the firefighters to keep in their homes, and the fire dispatcher would alert the tone and communicate wherever the alarm was going to be. They would listen at home to this big box here. Well, many years later, they issue
And after many more ice cream socials.
many more ice cream socials and fundraisers. This one is about 5 years old, and this is a home monitor as well. Does the same thing that the other one did. The other one had tubes in it. This is a solid state, and it's the same advances that you see in radio. No, this is only receive.
You still can't talk back.
So, but all the firefighters at home that have these hear the fire tones, and they will respond to the station after being dispatched on that call. So that's a home monitor. Now, this one also has a battery backup in it. Should our power fail at home, well, then we're not going to be put out if there's a thunderstorm or something in our electricity goes out. We can still respond because that has a battery in it.
Well, how have they improved it today?
Well, today you'll see this is one of the newer pagers that we have. It looks very much like a phone pager.
Yes, it does.
Very similar. However, this one is also a monitor. It does the same thing that these other 2 monitors did. It's a receive-only unit, and the dispatcher comes across on here, and you can hear the dispatcher talking, telling us where the fire is. Now, in addition to these, we now also carry handheld radios that we can talk back and forth, and we have radios in our vehicles.
All right. And this equipment, does the fire department supply that, or do the volunteers raise their own money?
Any of the home monitors and pager-type monitors that we carry are supplied by the fire department. Now, some radios are supplied initially mainly for emergency medical services personnel, so that they can call in and let the dispatcher know they're responding for the ambulance. Those are supplied by the department, and many of the volunteers now purchase their own radios. So it can be a little bit of an expense out of their pocket.
And now Louis, he didn't have the advantage of the small one. He only had the big one.
They had the big one, and of course one of our first radios that the dispatchers used was owned by the Civil Defense, and it was a very large unit, very similar to the first one I showed here, that they would call out on in just a very, very large radio with a microphone.
Well, now, if they didn't work, it would really be a tragedy because he couldn't get a hold of his people.
Absolutely, and that's where the telephone came in.
Well, I think you brought something special. I think we have a tape of Louis.
We sure do.
And what was he doing in this tape?
Well, tradition with the fire department has been that we've had training on Monday evenings. And on Monday evenings, we get together, do our hose training, ladder training, those types of things. We also do what we call radio check and house duties. So we will, at 6 o'clock, get together and start cleaning up the firehouse, make sure all the equipment operates properly, do any fueling up and those things. And when Louis was dispatching, one of his things was to get on the air and make sure that every radio in the township worked. So he would call out to the different fire stations, and they would respond. So we did bring a tape, and maybe they can play that. Let you hear Louis. This was late 60s, 67 or 8 possibly.
This is coming from his home?
This is from Louis' home. He and Franny both dispatched out of their living room.
Right, perhaps we can hear this tape of Louis talking to his volunteers.
Right.
Or checking their radios.
Fire Department, Centerville, Ohio. Attention District 1 and 3 firefighters. Training meeting, 7 p.m. this date at your station. Engine 12. Engine 12 clear. Clear. Engine 14. Engine 14 clear. Clear. Engine 16. Clear. Truck 11. 11 clear. Clear. Rescue 10. Rescue 10 clear. Clear. Engine 21.
That's amazing to hear the voice from the past.
Yeah, that is a very interesting thing because we still do radio check. However, it's not quite the same. The dispatcher does not call out anymore to have the engines respond. What we do now is when we go in and we're doing an engine check, we will get on the radio from the engine and say, Engine 12 dispatch, radio check. And they'll say, Engine 12, you're loud and clear. And that's all there is to it. It's not a systematic thing as Louis had done it.
Oh.
Now, an interesting side note to that tape, when Louis would dispatch, several of the children of the volunteers really looked up to him as a father figure or grandfather figure, and they always wanted him to say something to him or to them on the radio. And obviously there were enough children that he couldn't say hi to everybody on the radio, so he came up with a system. At the end of every dispatch, he would say 1010.
1010?
1010. And that was his code for hi kids. And so all the kids knew when he said 1010. That was
kind of a sign-off.
That's right.
Oh, that's interesting. We have a picture here of some of the early fire engines. Maybe you can, let's see, these go back to the 1950s. Maybe you can explain what some of these were.
Okay. This was 1957 when this picture was taken. On the far left of the picture, you'll see a very large vehicle with a civil defense emblem on it. And that vehicle was called the Unit. And the
Unit.
The Unit. And Unit 3, as that was called, carried some of the rescue supplies, the saws, the tools that we would get into maybe vehicles if there was a vehicle accident, how we would cut the cars open. It carried supplies should there be water rescue that needed to be accomplished, or lighting and those types of things. There are 2 engines in the middle. And then on the far right is an old Dodge truck that the volunteers put together. They took the bed off of the truck and put a tank on it, and that became our tanker. So we have some very old equipment there.
They created their own equipment.
That they had to come up with something, so they put a vehicle together for the purposes needed. And it was a very nice tanker.
What happened to all those old fire engines?
Well, most of them are run until we can't run them anymore, and then they're then auctioned off or used as salvage for other vehicles should we need to repair other vehicles, use parts. We just retired one of our oldest engines in October of '92, and that was engine 23. It was a white engine. Some people may remember the white engines.
White truck, I remember the white truck.
Engine 23 was purchased in '67. And we ran that until really we couldn't run it much more. Parts became unavailable. The particular engine that's in it you cannot buy replacement parts for, so we ran it until we really couldn't run it anymore. So many of them are sold for salvage, or they're refurbished and sold to smaller departments or put on auction.
I know I was checking on the old fire hydrants, and I knew that Centerville had gotten some water from the old quarry. In the 30s they'd laid out something, but it wasn't until the 40s that there were any fire hydrants, and they had, I think, 44 in Centerville, and then in the northwest part of the township they had about 20 or 30, because that was the first part to start the development and the building of homes.
Right.
So they were taking care of that.
Now, some of the original water mains, just as a side note, are still in the middle of town, which at the time was the village, and they have very small water mains there. So if anyone's driving through town here recently, they're seeing a lot of road work being done.
Yeah.
They're replacing many of those water mains, so we'll be able to upgrade our service.
They should do that. there was an important bond issue just this year. And tell me, what are they going to be purchasing for our fire department?
Well, the levy was passed, thank goodness, from the citizens, and the primary purpose of the levy is to operate the fire department. Any operational expenses, should it be manpower costs, equipment purchases, trainings, any of those types of things, those are paid for through levy expenses. So if you voted for the levy, you're paying for the general operating fund of the department.
Where are the headquarters? Where does the chief stay? Where is your main fire station?
Well, we're in a somewhat of a temporary situation right now. We outgrew Station 1 on Maple Avenue as far as an administrative building, and we are leasing currently some temporary office space behind Fire Station 1 in the Ducro development back there where the condos are, the office condos.
Okay, across from the post office.
Right,
All
right. We're very close adjacent to the firehouse, but we found that we did not have enough room to house the chief, the 2 deputy chiefs, the Fire Prevention Bureau, and the secretary. So we had to come up with some administrative offices.
There's an old helmet there. Can you hold that up?
I sure can. This was Louis' helmet in 1957, and you'll notice it does not say WTFD, it says CFD.
CF.
So Centerville Fire Department. So this is just one of those traditional things.
All right.
We still receive mail that says Centerville Fire Department, by the way.
Well, the development of our community has been so fast. What's that big helmet I see down there beside you?
Well, this is a modern helmet, and this is called a Metro style. This is the helmet that I wear when I go out with media relations for the department.
Would you put that on for me?
Oh, do I have to? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'd like to see it. I would like to see what all's inside there.
Okay, well, I'll turn it around real quick. Inside now, there's some special protective items in there to keep us protected should something fall on the head. It's an impact-resistant liner, so it'll absorb a lot of shock. We have some flaps that come down over the ears now to protect us from the heat and the flame.
All right,
And-
well, put it on, and that's how we'll close the show.
Okay.
With you ready to go out.
Almost.
Almost ready.
Right.
I want to thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
I
Thank
learned
you.
so much from you, and we appreciate it. I want to thank our audience for joining us today and hope they learned a little bit about Centerville's Fire Department. Thanks again.